every Sunday, but especially for this talk and our meditation together. We probably all know what the word vacation means. It basically means to leave, to vacate, to empty out, right? And so every Sunday, we've celebrated in this Western civilization the Sabbath, right? A day of rest. And I think all of us have enough gray hair in here to remember that everything shut down on a Sunday when we were young. Couldn't get gas, couldn't go to the five and dime, right? Everything was shut down. Everything rested. And this was the principle behind the teaching of the Sabbath, that in the narrative of Genesis, it said that God created everything in 6 days, and on the seventh day, he rested. And that was the paradigm for human civilization. In fact, there have been many really good biblical scholars that have said that this notion of Sabbath rest is actually the opposite of the surrounding nations in the way that they designed their culture. So when the Israelites, introduced this idea of Sabbath into the collective psyche of humanity, it was very much in contradistinction in regards to the surrounding cultures. And the way that this has been played out is every other culture, it's like you just keep working, you keep doing. So 7 days a week, you build the empire. 7 days a week, you stay busy. 7 days a week, it's all about you and the king or whatever. It's you never take a break. And so what a revolutionary idea to actually stop, to take a break, to let go, to relax, to vacate. And oftentimes, even now in our culture, when we do, we go on vacation and do. It's not really a vacation. It's not really an emptying out or a letting go. And so this is kind of where I like to build a sanctuary every Sunday morning for us to come into and know that you can stop. You can stop working, you can stop thinking, you can stop worrying, and begin to let go and vacate and empty out. And the beautiful thing about these teachings that we keep coming back to, the world wisdom traditions, is that what's called the apophatic meditation. This apophatic means emptying out, letting go, negating, and it's everywhere throughout Western and Eastern wisdom teachings. It's an emptying out approach. And what the beautiful thing is when you empty out, slow down, and still the mind, the natural presence of your own awareness, as we keep saying, is radiant. It's actually the light of creation. It's the presence of creation. It's the wisdom of creation. It's the love of creation. And so when we empty out our busy, working, doing mind, and we enter into a quieting and an entering into this rest of being, we come to realize everything's very good in creation. That was also the declaration of the Sabbath. He rested and declared everything was tov meod, very good. And so this is where we come back to. We come back to our basic goodness when we rest. And everything is illuminated when we rest. And as we're going to see in the Tao Te Ching, everything gets done when we rest. Like, this is the paradox. This is how we balance these two hemispheres of the brain, right? If the left hemisphere of the brain is running the show, it's like middle management trying to run the kingdom. And it's going to be a mess. It's middle management. It's not designed to have the vision and the understanding of the big picture. It just carries out specific tasks that are being directed from a higher hand. So the right brain is where we enter the silence and the stillness. And the practice that we are trying to cultivate is bridging the two, harmonizing the two, right? Coming into the namaste, where the left and the right recognize their co-participation and union so that everything flows harmoniously. That's why in the Tao Te Ching, it's Tao De Jing. It's the scripture or writing, Jing is scripture, of the Tao and the De. So the Tao is the way, right? The great expanse, the vast Father. And the duh is the power, the virtue that flows from the Tao. In other traditions, Tao can be called Shiva, and the duh can be called Shakti. In other traditions, it could be Yahweh and Shekinah, right? Father and Son. These two make the one, right? The way and its power. So what we have to realize is, in order to have power, like we've been saying, we have to rest. It's so paradoxical. In order to have wisdom, we have to forget what we know. In order to be fully energized, we have to learn how to rest. These are the paradoxes that the the right brain just can't figure out. No, the left brain can't figure out. So this is, what helps is in what we've been saying, this emptying out meditation is really a way of watching the mind from this place of not involving yourself in what the left brain or the talking mind is doing. Because it's always talking, it's always thinking, it's always planning, it's always remembering, it's always forecasting, it's always trying to figure out, it's always trying to problem solve, it's always trying to beat yourself up or blame somebody else. So when you start to quiet down, you begin to realize this inner voice never shuts up. It's always going. It's going right now. And the beautiful thing is you can learn how to take a vacation from that voice, because that's the only thing that you really need to vacate from. What stresses you out is not what happens in your life in the doing aspect of being in the world. It's the way that we're interpreting it and thinking about it that's so exhausting. He says it in the Course in Miracles. He says, you don't realize the sense of peace and relief that will come over you when you stop judging everything. When you stop evaluating everything and assessing things. It's literally what makes us sick, he says. Constant judging, constant evaluating. There's no rest, right? So this is where we get a chance to watch that, realize that's what's been going on. We've been highly unconscious about it. We have been ignoring it and thinking this endless chatter is me. This is me. It's not me. I'm the watcher when I stop and get still. And I realize this is the conditioned mind. This isn't me. This is a loop that keeps running. And as I watch it and breathe, that frenetic loop begins to slow down. And the more I don't involve myself by investing in what it's saying, it eventually stops. And when it stops, I can sink below that threshold of the waking state and recognize my own depth. When I recognize my own depth, I've transitioned from being an individual to being Buddha, from being a self to being the Christ, right? This is the process that we all must undergo at one time or another, this life or 1,000 lifetimes from now. Eventually there will be a now where you're going to say, yes, here I am, I'm ready. I want to stop the madness. I want to stop identifying with senseless thoughts that don't mean anything. So this is what Jesus in A Course in Miracles will say is really our firm beginning. Our firm beginning is knowing that we don't know. Right? This is a topic that we keep coming back to. How else can you rest? How else can you really feel at peace if you really believed your thoughts were true? If your thoughts are true, I wish I could swear, you'd be effed. If your thoughts are true, how pitiful of a reality that is, right? So what we have to realize first and foremost, our firm beginning, is to know that everything we think is meaningless. This is how he begins the workbook in A Course in Miracles. Everything I think I see and everything I think, meaningless. Why? Because it's totally distorted. It's distorted by my perspective. I don't understand what I'm seeing, but I'm giving it meaning, I'm interpreting it, and I think what I see is real, and what I believe about it is true, and that's fact. And if I believe these facts, it's a depressing life. So thank God what we believe is total bunk. It's bullshit. And we can actually dismiss it. And this is the whole point of, like, in the Eastern traditions, the idea of sweeping the temple was what the novice was given. Usually after waiting in the snow for three days outside the temple gates. You'd go to the gate of the temple and they wouldn't let you in right away. Because are you committed? Are you really wanting this, or is this sort of a fly-by-night fancy? Well, once you're committed and you're willing to endure the hardship, you're brought in, and then you're given the broom. Go clean the latrine, go sweep the floors, get rid of the crap. Sweep the temple of all the senseless thoughts. So everything that's happening on the exterior is also happening on the interior. So we have to learn how to sweep away these senseless thoughts. And that is the practice. Undoing, letting go, dismissing our thoughts, at least for an hour. Like, this is why spiritual practice is critical, especially now, as we're going to look at some passages within the Tao Te Ching to talk about when society goes off the rails. Like, all the more you have to dig deep. Like, I just got an email yesterday or the day before from a dear friend, and she was asking, like, these things that are coming up in the news are just so disturbing. Like, I'm really bothered and concerned and anxious about what I'm seeing and hearing in the news. And I said, well, it doesn't mean that the darkness isn't going to get darker and deeper and scarier, but that's where you have to shine brighter and be constant and vigilant in your practice. You don't ever win by making the darkness real. You shine brighter. Like, this is why we do our spiritual practice. And darkness can never overcome light. It's the absence of light. So it's only when we give in to the darkness that we become overcome by it. But that's an act of choice. So our spiritual practice, especially now, if you've been paying attention, we're kind of going through the birth canal. It's getting tight. There's a lot of pressure. That's how diamonds are made. And that's why our practice needs to deepen. We have to be completely committed to releasing the inner light. And that means releasing or letting go of these crazy thoughts first so that we can come to the ground. So let's do that. And when we enter into our few minutes now of restful reflection and quieting down, remember these teachings like Taoism and Chan or Zen and mystical Christianity. These teachings are actually to awaken a deeper sense where you can actually feel the energetic fabric. You can feel your breath. You can feel the pulsations in your mind. So begin to kind of switch over to that right brain way of being, where you're in a field of feeling, sensing from a more intuitive awareness, not thinking about, but immersing within. Okay? Because it's right here. We're swimming in it. And simply be with the rise and fall of your breath. Feel it. And cultivate the attitude of letting go, relaxing. And bring your attention to your forehead and breathe deeply and just feel your forehead relax, become serene, unwrinkled. Do the same for your eye sockets. Breathe in and relax. Make sure your jaw is relaxed and unclenched. And then slowly from the neck down, do a full body scan. Take your time, and wherever your attention is passing over, starting from the neck and slowly moving downward, let the breath and the attention relax the musculature. Feel the muscles draw away from the bones. No more clenching and gripping. Breathe and let go. Be sure to feel that wave of attention and awareness going all the way down into your knees, your calves, your ankles, and the soles of your feet. Breathing through these areas and totally letting go. And finally here, bring your attention to the crown of your head and slightly above. And this is where spirit or divine presence enters our awareness, our circuit. And just feel this presence descending like warm nectar into the crown of the head, like beautiful liquid fire. And then moving through the crown and into the brain, and feeling this golden light of nectar circulating through all the channels of the brain. Just let it do its own thing, but feel it, be aware of it. And this divine light, this living presence, moves through the whole circuit of the body. through all the channels in the nervous system and the blood circulatory system, all the way down. And finally here, a very concentrated flow of this divine life and light moves through the spine. You can feel it, this warm, liquid light, opening up the central channel of the spine, coming to rest in the base, at the coccyx or tailbone. And as you inhale, draw that liquid light back up the central column of the spine and let it gather in the back of the brain, the medulla. And as you exhale, it makes its descent down the spine, feeling it every step of the way, coming to rest in the base. Just a few rounds of spinal breathing. Feel the whole area from the back of the brain through the spine and into the tailbone, totally lit up, warm, peaceful, calm. As you bring your hands to heart, just feel the inner harmony, the ease of the breath. And from this calm inner state, we acknowledge one another as the very life of being itself. Namaste. So bringing attention to the back body through the spine, in the yogic traditions, this is called the western side of the body. The front of the body is the eastern side. And the reason why they kind of split it up, one of the reasons, is the west is where the sun sets. It's where you're not really aware of the deeper state of yourself because your conscious mind is considered the sun. The deeper unconscious mind is considered the western part. And so as we awaken our awareness of this western part of the mind, it's very much like Carl Jung would say, in order to be a whole person, you have to bring harmony and balance and communication between the East and the West, between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. There has to be a flow of communication. And this is one of the reasons why in our Western civilization we're so out of whack, because we have put all of our attention on the outward-facing life, the doing, the getting, right? The being somebody as a separate self. And we've completely ignored and neglected the depth of our being. And so that's why these teachings are coming along at such an important time as we make a transition again in our human evolution. And one of the things that we can be sure of is that whenever there is a major transition, there is major stress. There's major breakdown. And so we want to recognize the importance of not getting caught up in the fever of seeing things coming unhinged and seeming draconian measures being brought into existence and things like this. So we want to recognize that even though on the outside within our culture things seem to be breaking down, If we take this deeper view and we see the bigger picture, we realize we're just in a transition phase. And everything that's taking place is an important part of the whole tapestry. It needs to happen, right? You know, the image that's often given of this transition of the ages is a woman giving birth. And if you didn't know what giving birth was, and you just happened upon a woman giving birth and she's, you know, breaking water and completely in pain and screaming her head off, you would think something horrible is happening. This woman's dying. Put her out of her misery. And what's really happening is there's a transition phase for a new life to emerge. And in many ways, very much is the case in our situation. These are the transition phases. They're uncomfortable, they're ugly, they seem to be going in the wrong direction. But when you take the higher view, you'll realize it all needs to happen. Like we said, without the pressure, the diamond doesn't get made. Without the pressure and the need to change, we kind of revert back to our, simian ways. We like to kick back, relax, watch TV, don't care about much, and we're lazy as animal beings. It's only when the pressure's on that we have to get roused up and do something as far as deepening our life goes. So it's kind of a take heart message as well as a letting go message. So on that note, let's start with this chapter 61 of the Tao. When a country obtains great power, it becomes like the sea. All streams run downward into it. The more powerful it grows, the greater the need for humility. Humility means trusting the Tao, thus never needing to be defensive. A great nation is like a great man or woman. When he makes a mistake, he realizes it. Having realized it, he admits it. Having admitted it, he corrects it. He considers those who point out his faults as his most benevolent teachers. He thinks of his enemy as the shadow that he himself casts. Right? This is 1900 years before, 2000 years before Carl Jung. And here he is talking about the shadow, right? This projection of our own darkness. Our enemy is a projection of our own shadow, yes? And the one who is humble and truly great recognizes that his enemy is the shadow that he casts. So he looks at himself to admit that, to correct that, and to heal that. That's what makes him great. He's not great because he's got muscles and bravado and plows through things and dominates. No, he actually comes to a place of being in harmony with the Tao, with this Western-facing, deeper self. If a nation is centered in the Tao, if it nourishes its own people and doesn't meddle in the affairs of others, it will be a light to all nations in the world. How about that for foreign policy? I'll read it again. If a nation is centered in the Tao, right, harmony is what gets legislated in whatever specific forms are necessary. Harmony, balance, mutual giving, and in symbiosis, recognizing the symbiotic nature of life so that all may flourish in a synergy, right? Legislate that as the principle. If a nation is centered in the Tao, if it nourishes its own people and doesn't meddle in the affairs of others, it will be a light to all nations in the world. And that was the great promise of America, was it not? To be the light shining on the hill. Right? To be a light means don't meddle. Right? That is good foreign policy, just as an aside. It's also good interpersonal psychological dynamics. Don't get involved in the drama of others. They're making their drama because of their own distortions that they want to keep in place and not admit and look at for themselves. So if they're making a mess of their life and they're not looking at themselves and wanting to admit that they're doing it to themselves and change that, then if you meddle, you're just embroiling yourself in a drowning person's life, and they'll take you down with them. Right? That's how it goes. You cannot meddle in someone else's life and expect good things to come of it. It's only when we have the willingness to admit what we're doing to ourselves and want to change can there be any sense of rehabilitation and healing. Right? And then somebody who stands firm and flat-footed can come in and maybe lend a hand from standing on firm ground and pull somebody else out of the quicksand. But you got to be on firm ground to do that. You can't be up in the air and listening to your own chattering mind. You have to have come to rest. You can't give peace when you don't have it. Therefore, all you're going to do is lend gasoline to the fire, if that's the way that it goes when you're meddling, right? So good policy, collectively and individually. The ancient masters didn't try to educate the people, but kindly taught them to not know. This is one of the major themes for our discussion today. Teaching not to know is the way of the Tao. I don't know. But it's not an I don't know and therefore I'm an imbecile and I'm ignorant and I don't know how to direct my life. The I don't know is the prelude to knowing. The I don't know is the requirement for knowledge to come into your awareness. You have to sweep the temple and clean the latrine before you can come into the master's chambers and learn the teaching directly. That is, get rid of all of the distractions, all the confusion, all the meaningless chatter and false judgments, and come to rest in the nakedness of your own awareness. Be still. Then you will know, because the stillness of your own awareness is the presence of God itself. It's the Tao. We have total access to the Tao. We don't need a mediator, a priest, a shaman. We can come into this presence, but we first have to pay the price of admission. Let go of all the stupidity that we believe in and be still. If you want to learn how to govern, when they think that they know the answers, people are difficult to guide. When they know that they don't know, people can find their own way, because then they're in touch with their own heart, which is the presence. Right? You can't control people like that. Like, this is one of the reasons why he's saying the ancient masters taught the people to do this. Well, Socrates was murdered, right? They gave him the cocktail of hemlock because as he was charged by the government of Athens, he was corrupting the youth by teaching them that the myths of the Athenian religion weren't true. He was teaching people how to think critically and come to this realization that they don't know. That was his great gift, right? And the apologia of Socrates, the apology of Socrates, he's being accused of being so wise and intelligent and clever. And he's like, I'm not clever. I don't know. That's the whole reason why I can't be charged with these crimes, because I know I don't know. But what happens is, as we said, that gave him the ear to listen to what he called his daimon, or the haltheon, the God. He listened. He was still, and he heard the voice speaking in the silence. And that's what made him wise, and that's what he taught to others for them to find it for themselves, which made him dangerous to those who would like to social engineer and control and govern by domination. When people are set free in their consciousness, you can't govern that. They're a force of nature. They're the embodiment of the Tao, right? Directly, immediately, they're expressing it. and you'll know your guidance. Instant by instant, you'll know the wise thing, the harmonious thing, the wholesome choice, what would benefit the whole. You'll just know it instinctually because it's operating as you and you're at peace. Right? That's what these teachings are designed to do. That's what all the ancient masters taught. To know that you don't know so that you can come to rest in knowing. Right? And it's always now. If you want to learn how to govern, avoid being clever or rich. Again, that would kind of completely empty out the House and the Senate, according to these teachings. If you want to learn how to govern, avoid being clever or rich. The simplest pattern is the clearest. Content with an ordinary life, you can show all people the way back to their own true nature. Right? Showing people the way back to their own true nature is what we were talking about earlier. Cultivating this intuitive sense to start feeling within. Checking within. Does this feel right? Should I say this? Should I do this? Should I get involved and meddle with the affairs of this person, even though I love them and care about them deeply? Is that the right thing to do? Of course you can. Of course you can do it. That's what you should do. Because you're this person. You're this role. And as this role, you're supposed to do this. You should. And whenever you hear the word should, dismiss it. The ego always talks first, and it always speaks loudest. Let me stop. I'm not going to listen to me, because there goes me, the conditioned mind. I'm going to get quiet. I'm going to sweep the temple and listen from the heart. Does this feel right? Should I do this? Or is it the right choice? So simple, clear, direct, entering your own nature by knowing you don't know. And you've all heard this opening statement from chapter 56. Those who know don't talk. Those who talk don't know. Close your mouth, block off your senses, blunt your sharpness, untie your knots, soften your glare, settle your dust. This is the primal identity. Be like the Tao. It can't be approached or withdrawn from, benefited or harmed, honored or brought into disgrace. It gives itself up continually. That's why it endures. So the Tao is untouchable. It's unmessable with. You can't ever change or hurt or mar or defile the Tao. It's like the empty sky. No matter what goes on, the sky is always empty. It never changes, and it's always full. And so the Tao is our deepest nature, and when we come into this place of being like it or recognizing it, then we're unmessable with. We can't be harmed. We don't get upset. We let all of our dust settle, all of our worry, all of our confusion. You can't figure out confusion. You can't figure out doubt. Doubt doubts. That's what it does. But when you watch it as a phenomenon of the mind, it will come to rest and it will exhaust itself. And you will realize doubt is very much autistic. It just talks to itself. And it doesn't allow for anything that will really come to settle that. But what about, if that's the case, then, and it will go on and on and on and on and on. Doubt is a closed loop. Watch it, see it for what it is, and let it settle. And when it settles, you'll still be there as the watcher, the witness. What is that? That's being like the Tao. That's unmessable with. Doubt can't intrude upon your peace once you stop identifying with it. Settle all doubts. He says in A Course in Miracles, the ego is the questioning compartment of the mind. It always asks endless questions, but its questions, and we're going to draw a distinction here, its questions are always propaganda for itself. Because in asking a question, it wants to know that it exists as it is. So the self that's asking the question wants to know it exists, and that's embedded within the question. So here's a story to illustrate that. A student went to the master and said, "Master, you've taught that everything has Buddha nature. The grass has Buddha nature, the rivers have Buddha nature, the trees, the birds, every living thing has Buddha nature. Do I have Buddha nature?" The master says, "No." I don't have Buddha nature? Everything has Buddha nature. Yes, everything has Buddha nature. Well, then don't I have Buddha nature? No, you don't have Buddha nature. The one asking the question can't have Buddha nature. Buddha nature doesn't ask questions. Buddha nature knows itself. So there is a closed-minded question, and then there is this inquiring question, this questioning that wants to end questioning, the seeking that wants to find. That's a different approach. But the one that's always asking the question as if he or she really exists is going to never find the solution, only the question. So the Buddha nature, like we said, is we're swimming in it. We are it. It's like we're the air we're breathing. All of our problems are already solved if we would let go of the crazy thinking. The crazy thinking is our problem, not what we think it's pointing at. It's the crazy thinking that hurts us, the endless judgments that exhaust us. We must take a vacation from that mind. We must let go of it and drop into the silence of not knowing. This is vital instruction for us right now. Because when we do this, we'll see our own nature. And once we see our own nature, you can never unlearn that. It's what you've been looking for. And then finally, in the beginning was the Tao. All things issue from it, all things return to it. To find the origin, trace back the manifestations. When you recognize the children and find the mother, you'll be free of sorrow. If you close your mind in judgments and traffic with desires, your heart will be troubled. If you keep your mind from judging and aren't led by the senses, your heart will find peace. Seeing into darkness is clarity. Knowing how to yield is strength. Use your own light and return to the source of light. This is called practicing eternity. So the light of your awareness, the watcher, the witness, Don't get involved in the manifestations. See them all as ripples on the sea of the Tao. Don't see them as divided and fragmented off. Beings following their own nature eventually return to the sea. Everything will come to harmony. Don't meddle with it. Rest. Find your peace. Find your strength. And allow that light in you to get brighter. This is practicing eternity. This is how we cultivate Da, or power, Shakti, Holy Spirit. We go into a state of completely emptying out and coming to the ground of our being and not moving. And that ground nurtures us, feeds us, informs us, teaches us, fills us with everything we need. And whatever it is that needs to manifest on the outside, that nameless, formless ground will take the form that it needs to take and manifest as that. This is how we know we're practicing eternity. We know all of our needs will be met. We're not meddling in the affairs of others, and we're entering our own nature as a daily, hopefully, eventually, moment by moment practice. So I thought this book would be appropriate for our conversation this morning. Only Don't Know. Right? This is the teaching letters of Zen Master Seung San. He was a Korean Zen master, lived in the 1970s and early 80s. And his famous teaching is practice, don't know mind. How beautiful. Only don't know. That means let go of your judgments, your opinions, what you consider to be facts, and you'll enter into the state of Zen. And then you'll know, right? So here's a couple of letters that he received from his students. One student wrote to him back in June of 1979, and he was a Marine, and he saw some really horrible things in Vietnam as a medic. And the Zen master writes after getting the letter, "Dear Paul, thank you for your letter. How are you? In your letter, you talk about your service in Vietnam as a soldier and medic, seeing many people, including children, die around you, and treating the wounded. You say these things weigh heavily on your heart and mind. You have already seen many dead people. Someday your body will also disappear. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe the day after tomorrow. Not only your body, but maybe this whole world will disappear tomorrow. All the large countries in the world have atom bombs. Maybe someday one person will make a mistake, push a button, set off all the missiles, and in a second the whole world will be destroyed. You saw many people die in the Vietnam War, so you have a strong feeling. But if your mind opens and you see this world, you will see that from moment to moment, there is already a great deal of danger, and you will be very unhappy, not knowing which way to turn. A long time ago, the Buddha was a prince, soon to become a king. He had everything, but he wasn't satisfied, so he put it all down, cut his hair, went to the mountains and sat under the Bodhi tree. One day he saw the morning star and got enlightenment. He understood that your true self has no life and no death. You must understand that. If you truly attain that, then everything is no problem. What are you? If you don't know, only go straight. Don't know. World peace comes from this. So you must try. Then your experiences in Vietnam will be your greatest teacher and will save all beings from suffering. I hope you only go straight. Don't know, which is clear like space. soon finish the great work of life and death, get enlightenment, and save all beings from suffering. And I'm just going to read a brief excerpt from this. This woman works with children, and they are oftentimes really uncontrollable, ill-tempered. And he was saying how he knew of a person who um, was working in a Jewish nursing home, and a few days before writing this letter, somebody set fire to the nursing home. And the police checked their records and found that the man had set several fires, and all at Jewish-owned stores. So he doesn't like Jewish people. And then the master says, "This is crazy. Both the children you work with and this man are like moths. They are strongly attached to something. They do the same action over and over without knowing why. A mind that goes narrowly on one track like this is crazy. If a person's mind is a little wider, it is not so crazy. Wider still, it is only a little crazy, sometimes. If your mind is clear like space, then you're completely sane." So he just gave a very nice way of gauging our level of sanity. If we are addicted to habitual thinking and doing, and we're the same person that keeps showing up day in and day out, doing the same thing, seeing the same judgments as reality, we're crazy. If our minds open up a little beyond the judgments and the opinions and the meanings that we've defined as fact, and we're a little more spacious in our awareness, we're less crazy. And if we can let go of all of our judgments in the don't know mind and be like empty space and settle into the silence and hear this intuitive presence of the heart guiding us moment by moment, then we're sane. Right? So in this way, thinking is insanity, and stopping that crazy thinking brings us into a harmony or a peace. If you don't make anything and don't hold on to anything, your mind is already the absolute. There is no subject and no object. Inside and outside become one. Everything is true as it is. Then your everyday life is the truth. Your moment-to-moment situation is correct. And already you have saved all beings from suffering. If you keep this mind, you will know how to help the crazy people. So I hope you only go straight, don't know, and keep the bodhisattva way. Just take a moment and let things just kind of settle for a few breaths. And just notice behind all of the teachings that were shared this morning, thoughts were extended through language. So thoughts and words were used. But notice what they're designed to do. These thoughts and words are designed to stop thinking and speaking from the separate self. They're designed to bring our attention beyond thoughts and words. So what is it that's listening right now, which is really where these teachings are pointing your attention? What is the nature of this awareness that's listening? first answer is, I don't know. And then we can open like little children. This is the way and the power. And so it is. Amen. Blue bag's going to go around. And blessing the offering, letting it be what it is, a reminder that all things are one and share the same life. Amen. All right, let's rise, seal the deal. Settling back into the heart for a moment, being this open space, quiet, still, and hopefully taking this mind of being on vacation into the rest of your day. Because once the mind is set free of its past, it's the light of God that surrounds us, the love of God that enfolds us, the power of God that protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. Amen. Course of Miracles tomorrow night, 7:15 p.m. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you.